Word on the street. FisMaz show. What's the word on the street? Like who got the beats that be killing the game? Who's up on the scale? Who playing who? What's the score on the sheet? Fiso the Prince got him taking the seat. Got the legends giving us the 411. Fiso Maz from the 031. No hating sports and entertainment when we got it all and we're the only ones. And after all that action, never have a dripping hot passion. Drippy on some rich municipal stylish and soak up with passion. If it's giving us less, then we never settle. Make sure you pull up and bring all your medals. Sit back and relax, let's go. It's FisMaz bringing you the FisMaz show. It's the FisMaz show. It's the FisMaz show. It's the FisMaz show. It's the FisMaz show.
Yo, what up, what up, what up? This is the one, the only DJ Nays. Hope you're keeping up and keeping it well, man. You are currently locked into the one, the only Forex father, or as you know it, the FisMaz show. You know, shout out to my man Fiso doing big things right now. Forex father, take it home.
Hello everyone, welcome to the FisMaz show. Make some noise. Come on now, come on now. Yep. Looking forward to today. So much happening in South African football, so much happening in the world of sport. But Sundowns. Well, if rumors are to be believed, there's been a little bit of mischievous behavior. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I decided, let me not speculate, let me not, spread false or rather fake news is what they call it these days. Let's rather get someone who may know a little bit of a few secrets with regards to what is happening at Kyrkop. Of course, Sundowns, incredibly impressive team. They've been doing so well. They've been dominating South African football. They've been making headlines with regards to financial fair play and all those sorts of chats. But on the field of play, Sundowns have been unbelievable. They've done well in Africa so far, and they're doing well in the South African top flight. Many expected to win it. Many actually have said that they've already won it. So, but that's a conversation for another day. Let me bring him in. It's a legendary journalist, Mahlatse Mphahlele, who will be joining me just to give me a breakdown of exactly what is going on. So I'm hoping that Mahlatse can come in and make sure that we are getting the inside scoop with regards to what is happening. It's going to take a little bit of time before Mahlatse does join, but it looks like he's there. I'm not sure if you can hear me as yet, but I'll tell you something. When you are called legend, then you know that then you're doing big things only. So otherwise, how are you keeping?
Good. Why not?
No complaints, no complaints. You know, we're moving forward. We're trying to fix the country one step at a time. Whether we'll succeed or not is a story for another day.
Another story, yeah.
Quick one. I mean, obviously, a lot has been made about what is happening in Mamelodi Sundowns. We know the success they have on the field of play. We know just how brilliant they've been in the African, the CAF Champions League as well. But hey, man, what is this rumor that players arrive drunk to training? What's going on there?
Yeah, well, I guess maybe let's start by saying, you see, I mean, for the longest while now, South African football, you know, I mean, you can even go to other sports to say that, you know, it has struggled with issues of alcohol abuse. It is something which is not, you know, only in football, only at Sundowns. You know, if you speak to all the club officials across all the teams in the PSL, in the NFD, even at the amateur level, they constantly have this problem where players, you know, will rock up smelling of alcohol, don't sleep enough. There's just a general level of lack of professionalism from most of the players. And unfortunately, you know, over a number of years, we've seen you know, extremely talented footballers, extremely talented sportsmen and women. I mean, in athletics, you can remember Lubo Manyonga, who had got serious problems. Somebody who, you know, probably would have won, achieved more in athletics, you know. So it's a general sporting problem, unlike a Sundowns problem. I can tell you now, at one of the clubs this morning, they had a similar problem. It's just that it's not been reported. So yeah, I agree. It is a serious challenge, and I think players need to come to a realization that they're just like me and you, who wake up every morning. We have to be presentable, we have to be professional, because we all employees at the end of the day, whether you are a soccer player or you're a journalist or you're a TV presenter or whatever. So it's something that is concerning that after so many years, after so many episodes of former players who have come out to the fore talking about these problems and how it has caused them in their lives. Players to this day continue to do this. It's very, 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 very disappointing indeed.
I think let's be clear. You know, I know perhaps there will be a few people that will listen and think we on the attack here with regards to Sundowns. I think we're just highlighting this particular issue because of the recent cases, and I guess the names that have been attached to that. You know, in Andile Jali as well as Sipho Mbule, a player who has immense potential, a player who, you know, it's always ironic, isn't it? Because a lot of these players that have got X factor, that have got skill, that have got flair, they always seem to be attached to these sort of scandals. But for a player like Andile Jali to be attached to it, it's a little bit surprising because you think a player at his age, a player with so much experience, you wouldn't be hearing him associated with such, but could contract disputes and potentially not having a new deal have played its part in that?
Yeah, I mean, you can obviously. I mean, you know, I don't speak on his behalf. I'm not the spokesperson, but from a distance, you know, I'm tempted to say maybe that's the reason. I'm tempted to say maybe he's unhappy. He's unhappy at the club. You can see the way Sundowns is been built now lately. You know, they've moved Toby Mbala to the defense. We saw last night against Marumo Gallants in the Nedbank Cup. Bongani Zungu is coming back very strongly. Rivaldo Kotie is coming very strongly. You have got Tebo Homukwane in that midfield. You have got Shishi, Tambazwane. You have got Gaston Sereno. So maybe Andile Jali has looked at that situation to say, well, I'm not going to play here. The guy still have got a few months left in his contract. From what I understand, he has asked for termination so that he can join a team of his choice, and he has not been given what maybe he's trying to negotiate. So maybe this is a way by him, whether right or wrong, of trying to force a move away from the club. You know, obviously, I mean, if you, I wouldn't have been doing something like this. You still have to be professional to the end because you don't want to burn bridges. I mean, you've seen also in the past players coming back to former clubs, getting employment and stuff like that. And you know, so I don't know what is the motivation he's doing this from his part behind the scenes. But you know, what information we're getting is that you know, those things that we reported on Times Live are indeed correct. The club has not come out to dispute any of those things that we have reported that have happened. That indeed Andile Jali and Sipho Mbule did arrive at training under the influence of alcohol or smell of alcohol. And yeah, it's very, very disappointing. You touched on the issue of normally it happens to talented players, not entirely. It happens to all types of players, you know. Of course, in this case, it's Andile Jali and Sipho Mbule. I mean, Sipho Mbule, another exceptionally gifted footballer who from SuperSport, where he came from, they've always dealt with these issues. He's somebody who doesn't seem to get it right on a number of occasions, but when he's switched on, when he's focused, he's a player who can definitely give you the X factor.
Yeah, I mean, truly worrying for a player like Sipho Mbule, who it seemed like he was starting to pick up a few more games than he had seen in the past, and we were hoping that he was on the right track, because when you look at a South African player, a classic South African player who plays in midfield, who's got a bit of a touch, has got a bit of silky skills, he's a guy who many looked at and they thought, hey, there's something there. There's something that we could polish and shine, and potentially even the national team can benefit. And that'll be a worry, that a player like that is threatening to potentially throw it all away, because I mean, you've touched on it, you know, players gone by that have had similar issues. When you think of, you know, Sipa Nunez is a player that comes to mind who was a Sundowns player. You look at players that have played for other teams. Junaid Hartley is a player who suffered with substance abuse as well. Masibusane Zongo is a player with incredible ability. You know, the list is very long, and it is an issue that we need to solve. But how do we go about solving it? How do clubs go about solving it? Because at the end of the day, after training, it's up to you.
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen somewhere on social media people blaming the clubs, that the clubs are not helping the players and all those kinds of things. I mean, I know. I mean, in my other life, I worked for a football club, and I've seen how you know, clubs behind the scenes go at great lengths to try and help these players. I mean, I've seen players being taken to rehabilitation centers by clubs. And when the player comes back, the first thing he does is pick up a bottle of alcohol and start drinking again. So people have got demons that sometimes they struggle to get rid of. We come from different situations. And I mean, our profession, me and you, we may know one or two people who have similar problems. People who come to work drunk or whatever, if somebody works in a department of whatever or in an office next door, they will probably have a similar story about a similar colleague who have a similar problem. So I guess in a way, these things sort of mirrors the challenges we have as a society. We come from communities where we have seen these kinds of things happen in communities done by normal human beings like me and you. I guess maybe the Jalis and the Bullets, they get more focus on them because they are famous people. They are people who are football superstars and stuff like that. Probably if it was me and you, nobody would care because you know we are not professional footballers. But it's a societal issue. It's about how people were raised sometimes about the sort of the background support that people get. Sometimes it's just people being dealing with issues which we don't know. I mean, not so long ago, I'm not in any way insinuating that Zibungosi has got drinking problems or whatever, but the Bulls went at great length to try and help him to deal with mental issues. So these guys are human beings and they deal with stuff that normal human being like me and you have deal with. But obviously, I'm not making an excuse for them. If you get paid a salary to do work every month, you still have to rock up at work and do what you're supposed to be doing. Because at the end of the day, like I said earlier on, we're all employees here. If you are an employee, you have got a contract with your employer and you need to live up to what you have signed up for. So it's unacceptable. It should not be condoned. There are young players who look up to these guys, and there's a risk that younger players may look at this and think that is the right thing to do, and it must be put out there that under no circumstances, whatever the case may be, you can rock up at work smelling of alcohol. It just does not happen that way. So I hope they fix these problems. I hope maybe in the case of Jali, who probably will leave the club, wherever he goes, he'll sort of fix the problems that are there. For the sake of Sipho Mbule, will probably still have a long way to go with Sundowns in terms of his career and his contract. He will fix, he will get his act together so that he can continue to play football, because we all know that when Sipho Mbule is switched on, his feet, he's fully focused, he can really, really be an exceptional player, and not only for Sundowns, but for the national team also.
Yeah, I mean, it made some great points there. And I think the one that really stood out for me the most is the fact that they are human beings. They will make mistakes, and everyone, it is a societal problem. Drinking is it seems to get South Africans so excited, and at times it can take over your life before you even realize. Before you before you really blink, you think I've got a problem here. So I think it's very important to highlight that, because footballers and athletes in general do get hammered a lot because they're expected to be these perfect human beings. But like you said, there's something great that you said there. You're still at work. It's the bottom line. I've got a book here in my bookshelf by the great Deco Modise, where he spoke about in certain chapters where he spoke about the fact that when he wasn't happy at Pirates and when he couldn't get his move overseas, he ended up just abusing alcohol, and essentially that became his escape. But it's also a mentality thing. You touched on the fact that sometimes it's about how you grow up and the support structure around you. Sometimes life just throws things at you, and you've got to find a way to deal with them. And alcohol and substance abuse isn't the answer, is it?
No, it's not. It can and it can never be. I mean, they talk about you can have whatever problems you have, but you'll never find solutions to your problems at a bottle of a drink. So I think we just need to continue issuing this message repeatedly to guys, for them to understand. And I guess like I said, in communities where we come from, people need to understand that you have to take responsibility. If you have got a job to do, you've got a job to do. I guess there's nothing wrong obviously without condoning the thing, but there's nothing wrong with people drinking. The problem becomes if you start abusing drinking, So we have to take responsibility. We have to create a culture in this country where people must rely less on drinking. We can't have a situation whereby the youth of this country, everybody just drinks. What kind of a country are we going to have tomorrow? So it's one of those things that we have got to have a stronger or a larger discussion as a country to say what kind of young people are we preparing for the future? Because surely you can't have. We have had instances where kids even at high school are drinking. They miss class because they go and drink, and that for me, it just doesn't sit well with me. You can't have young people consumed by alcohol and drugs and just reckless behavior. So I just hope that this can sort of spark debate where as a country, communities, we can continue to discuss this issue because even though it has happened, this case was unfortunate, but it can serve as a message to say, hey, let's pause. Let's relook into these things. I mean, in communities, in townships or wherever, parents are having problems with children who steal stuff from homes to go and buy drugs and all sorts of things, and that just cannot be correct. So I hope more and more sort of discussions is centered around this issue so that we can try and fix this problem. I mean, the Premier of Gauteng and Andile Jali Sipho has spoken strongly about this issue of saying let's just ban alcohol. I know it maybe it's a bit of a stretch, but whatever means necessary possible that we can go about on trying to make sure that we don't have a significant chunk of young people consumed by issues of alcohol and drugs and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a fascinating debate that we could go on for hours about. And I mean, I always make an example of us as adults. What example are we setting for those youngsters? Where are the kids see it from somewhere? They don't just go out and say, I want to go and drink. They obviously seeing it every day around them, people they look up to. Then it looks like it's okay. And then at times we come back as adults and say, but you can't do that. And then they may not say it, but they say, but you do, and it's crazy how big an influence we have on young kids around us, because they look at you and the way you behave, trust me, one day you sit there and you look and you say, hey man, I used to do that. That's where they see it,
No, it's true. I mean, for example, I mean, if I can talk about my individual experience, when I was young, I used to drink. Well, I mean, I've been off booze now for many, many years. And I guess also, issue of peer pressure and stuff like that. You did this thing not entirely because you really want to do it, but the pressure is there to look cool. The pressure is there to conform, maybe with friends or whatever the case may be. You realize later that maybe there was just no benefit in doing these kinds of things. But also some people sort of get away with it because maybe me or the person next door, you don't have to wake up in the morning and go and train. But if you're a sportsman or a sportswoman, you really cannot easily get away with the issue of drinking, not sleeping enough, because you pretty much use your body to earn money. So in that sense, it becomes even a bigger problem, because then if you are a football player, you can't wake up and go and train. Then you are going to be in serious problems. And, if you don't rest, you are always tired, and you can't be able to perform up to a reasonable level or up to an acceptable level. So we must continue to sort of hammer this message home to the guys to say, though there's nothing wrong with drinking, like I indicated earlier on, doing some things in moderation. Whenever there is time to do it. These guys sometimes they've got 1 or 2 days off. Maybe if you've got a day off, you can have one of you and then go and sleep, and tomorrow wake up and go and train. You can't have football players drunk every day. I mean, people at clubs at 5 o'clock in the morning, and they have to train at 8 o'clock in the morning again. So those are the issues that we need to keep on hamming up to these guys to say, you have to behave in a professional manner, because that is what is expected of you. And you mentioned a key issue here. These guys are influencers in their own right. Young people look at them, driving beautiful cars, drinking in those cars, and they feel that maybe it's the right thing to do, and it's not the right thing to do. So they unfortunately, if you are at that level, unintentionally you have signed up to sort of being an example to young people, and you have to continue to carry yourself in a way that is exemplary, because young people look up to you, and chances are they are going to do whatever you do, whether right or wrong.
Yeah, Mahlatse, I mean, I couldn't have said it any better myself. I mean, yeah, I really appreciate your time. I didn't mention this particular topic, and maybe you don't know anything about it, and it's okay to say that. But I wanted to ask you one last thing before I let you go. What is happening at TX Galaxy with regards to the financial crisis there? A lot of people spoken about the fact that mid-season trip during the World Cup to Turkey or to Europe has essentially backfired from a financial point of view, even though it was something that was essentially done for the good of the team.
Yeah, it's a little bit disappointing, really. The news that are coming out of the club, that they have players, some of the players have not been paid for 2 months, and stuff like that. I just can't imagine how did we get to this as a professional soccer league. I mean, from the league, I am sure that the league honors its obligation of paying the clubs their grants on time. And then now what becomes a problem is, how are the clubs not honoring the obligation of paying the players? We always hammer the players when they do the wrong things. And then how it becomes even more unacceptable when the clubs are not keeping the end of their bargain of paying their players, because the players, every week in and week out, they are out on the field training and playing matches. So they have got to be paid for the service that they render to the clubs. So I've watched the story from a distance. I mean, obviously, the owner of the club, Tim Sugazi, has not been available to talk to most of the times. Communication also is very poor from their end. But it's quite very important that they need to come out and explain to the fans, explain to football lovers as to what is going on there. Because clearly, something is not wrong. There's a voice note doing the rounds of the players in a meeting with the coach, where they've actually strongly expressed their disappointment, expressed their frustration that some have not been paid. Some of these people were not some, but all of them, they've got obligations on the football. They've got to pay debts, they've got to pay whatever they must do. Kids are in school, they've got to feed their families. How are you able to honor your obligations as a man or as a woman at home, where maybe you are a breadwinner or whatever the case may be, if you have not been paid? So it's something that should not happen. Unfortunately, it's happening a lot now. I mean, we've had stories, especially in the first division. TTM are serial offenders. On a number of occasions, they've not paid the players, and it's something that I think the PSL needs to pay a little bit of attention to, and make sure that players are well looked after. And also, I think this is an opportunity for the players' union to rise up and do their job and try and help the players get their salaries, because you really cannot have issues where players are not being paid. It's completely unacceptable. This is a professional soccer league. It's not on the dusty street there, where people are playing informal football. People have got responsibility at home, and they must be paid for the services that they render. So yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed, and definitely something that should not be happening in 2023.
And the irony behind that is Tim Sugazi has been a chairman who has been very vocal. He's been out there, and all of a sudden, when there's a bit of a storm, like you're saying, he hasn't been able to make a comment around that. And anyone who's a neutral sits back and says, yeah, man.
No, it's true. Things are not adding up. I mean, they recently went on a tour to I think to Europe, which at that time it looked like it was a beautiful thing to do, because we've got to expose players to those kinds of conditions. We've got to expose players to that kind of competition, and it looked like it was a very, very nice, well thought sort of mini pre-season camp after the World Cup. And then it turns out that part of the monies which were used to fund that trip is monies which was taken from the players. So there's a lot that is happening at that club. And I think for the sake of Team Zuka's reputation, as a young chairman, is people who have been in football for a very, very long time. He's one of the guys who would think that going forward, they will lead our football. But if, in his chairmanship, he's starting on a on a false footing like this, he runs the risk of losing his reputation. He runs the risk of people not taking him seriously. He's a guy who has worked very well in football. I think he became wealthy because of football. And if you are somebody like him, who became wealthy largely because of football, you should repay the game in a way that is respectable. And I'm a bit worried that at the moment he's found wanting. And for his sake, I can hope that he can turn things around. That club, is a club that's got potential to grow. It's a very, very nice brand. It's a brand that has got its own positioning, especially in the area where he comes from in Bandebele. People probably should be looking up to him, looking up to the club, and the young people in that area would know that if they want to play professional football, they can play for that club. And if these things are like this are happening, it's really, really not good. And not only him, there's been one or two other clubs in this league who have been found wanting in terms of honoring the obligation to the players. And we don't really want to be seeing those things in this day and age. We have to be professional because, players at the very least deserve to be treated with respect and with professionalism.
Yeah, look, all we can hope is that that situation does get sorted out. So wishing Team Sugazi and TX Galaxy all the best with regards to that particular situation, because no doubt that brings sleepless nights. I can only imagine. But yeah, Legend, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. As I said at the very top of the show, when you're called Legend, then you must know that you're the real team. You're the real team. So I appreciate it, and I hope we can get you back on the show in the future. And yeah, really enjoyed chatting with you.
You're too kind. It was my debut. I hope it was a good debut. I hope my first touch was Nandi,
What's more Nandi, yeah?
Yeah, it's fine. Thank you very much.
I
Anytime,
really
my brother.
appreciate it. Yeah, guys, it's heated out here. It's heated out here. South African football always full of drama. And yeah, just in closing, man, Andile Jali, one of my favorite players, warrior, and sometimes there's reasons, behind our actions as human beings. And I think we've always got to be very careful before we judge people, before we judge people harshly. And look, it's probably something that we won't know about anytime soon. I could try all my best to get Andile on the show and Sipho Mbule, but I don't think that would happen. But I think it's very important to understand, like me and Mahlatse said during the show, players are human beings. We all make mistakes, and let's hope that they'll come out on the other side of that, because at the end of the day, football is something that is truly special, not only to South Africans, but to a lot of people across the world. And we want our players not only at their best, but also healthy and living life with a smile. So yeah, it's been a beautiful show, informative. I thank Mahlatse once again for the insights with regards to that saga and with regards to that TX Galaxy saga. And yeah, I hope that all of you enjoyed that episode. I hope all of you enjoyed that chat. And yeah, let's see what the future does hold. But from us at the FisMaz show, we're going to say goodbye in style. The outie, as we say, bye bye.